Welcome to the Moms Who Know podcast, the podcast for moms who know that when they take care of themselves, they can take better care of everyone else. And speaking of taking care of yourself, today, August 20th, if you're listening to this the day this comes out, is the start of the Fill Your Own Cup Self-Care Challenge. It's a ton of fun. I hope you'll join us. To get the emails, you're going to go to momswhoknowpodcast.com/self-care and just click join the challenge. You'll also want to join the Facebook group so you can participate with the group and really hear what other moms are doing. And this is a fun way for me to get to know you and hear how you're putting these things into practice. For today's show, we are talking to Jeremy Roadruck about all things parenting. He is a Kung Fu master and really gives a lot of information about Kung Fu and parenting and how the two of those go together. It's a great episode. You're going to have a lot of takeaways that you can use in your home and family. So let's get to the show. Hello and welcome to the Moms Who Know podcast. I'm your host, Chanel Nielsen, and I'm joined today by Jeremy Roadruck. Jeremy, thank you for being on the call.
Well, thank you for having me. I am very excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. This is a topic I have been looking for just the right guest to have on here, and I was really excited when I came across Jeremy and his book. So Jeremy is a Kung Fu master and teacher, has been teaching for over 20 years, and he is a 6th degree black sash in Shaolin Wing Chun. Did I get any of those words right?
Shaolin Wing Chun. You got close.
Okay. You know, ironically, I actually speak Chinese, but there were no little accents to tell me which way to go. So
this is actually Cantonese, not Mandarin. In Mandarin, it would be Shaolin and then Gong Fu, not Kung Fu. So
yes, okay, that's good. Your Chinese sounds great.
Thanks.
So Jeremy wrote the book, and let me get here to the title so I say it right because it's a long title. He wrote, "Your Best Child Ever Is This Game Worth Winning: How to Raise a Stable, Centered, Respectful, Self-Disciplined, Confident, Self-Motivated, Self-Directed, Successful, Wise, Wealthy, Safe, Healthy, and Happy Child for the Complete or Not So Complete Beginner." I love the title that you fit everything in there. Of course, that part is the subtitle. And what I thought was very interesting about this book, and as I read the reviews and everything as I was looking into this book, Jeremy actually wrote this book before he became a parent. Now, since he has married and had a daughter and a stepson, and so he's in the trenches now. But I am really excited to talk about your background. So to start off with, what motivated you to write a parenting book before you had kids?
Well, I wrote it when I was single and I wasn't dating and I wasn't married, but I did have 17 years at that time of working with families and kids. And you begin to start noticing patterns. And one of the things we do in martial arts when we're fighting is we're looking at our opponent to recognize patterns. Do they telegraph their intention? Do they move their body a certain way? Do they step a certain way? Do they telegraph what they're doing so that we can interrupt what they're doing and do our thing, right? We say play our game, not play their game. And so noticing the challenges in families, I began to start seeing predictable patterns that if I was getting this behavior, then I could look into the family situation and the family dynamics and go, oh, here's the causal factors. This is happening. The parents aren't noticing. It's creating this energy. The parents are pushing against it. It's coming out sideways. And so I could then begin to introduce concepts or strategies or ways to play the game of life that made it easier for mom and dad to feel comfortable and accomplished and help the kids to feel comfortable and accomplished at the same time.
Okay, so I love it that you saw these patterns and you started to put kind of this framework in place. Now, having written this book, it's 6 years ago now, right? And you're in a totally different life situation. Are there things that you would change that now that you're in the trenches and that you're parenting full time and living this? Are there things that you think, I wish I would have done this a little different, or now that I've had this experience, I would have changed it? Or are you pretty like, these are the patterns and these are the principles and they still work.
Yeah, it really is. I put a money back guarantee on my book because I know this stuff works, right? In my martial arts school, if I'm a jerk, if I'm a bully, if I push too hard or I'm too mean or too whatever, the kids can just quit or the parents can just quit. And so, kids quitting the family, kids quitting school is much more rare, much more challenging. So parents and teachers can kind of get away with a different type of authority structure than I can. So if I want to keep the kids engaged, I have to stay engaged. I have to be interesting. I have to hold their attention through multiple years to black belt. So I wrote the book and I put a money back guarantee on it because I know this stuff works. And now I actually have more examples because I can use with my own children. And my son is different than I am, and my daughter is different than I am. I like to say, my daughter is half me, half mom, and half something else.
Yeah, because they come just themselves, right? It's so interesting. Even I have 5 kids and they're all just totally, totally different, totally unique. They just have their own personality. And so, yeah, they come to you a certain way for sure. So, okay, one thing that really intrigued me when I was reading your book is you said this: imagine your children coming to you looking for ways to contribute to household chores, being more helpful and respectful to each other, and being responsible, all with minimal input or guidance from you. That sounds amazing. And that's not happening in my house right now. My kids are not coming to me looking for ways to contribute to household chores. And there is some sibling rivalry that goes on, maybe not constant respect towards each other and all these things. So as we talk, I'd love to get into ways that we can see this happen in our families, because that sounds amazing. I can see why you put a money back guarantee on your book, because people will be like, what? How can this happen? And so, right. Yes, you're guaranteed some of these things.
Absolutely.
So as a framework, we're going to talk about playing fundamental games is something that you have in your book. So let's start there, or even before that, if you would like to start with kind of how parents set the stage.
Okay. Yeah. So let me start with how I grew up. And that was, my dad wanted to be a good dad. The song, The Cat's in the Cradle, was like a really big song, and it made a huge impact on him because he didn't want to have us, my brother and I, grow up and have no relationship with us, and the whole point of the song is it's always in the future, something's going to happen. And then the dad, he grows up his son says, okay, Dad, see you later. I got to go. And it's like this pattern repeats. It's like I raised him just like I did. So he wanted to do something different. And there was a book that came out in the late 70s called Games People Play. And it was new kind of theory about behavior and how people avoid responsibility, or how they rationalize and justify behavior. The problem with the book, because I didn't read that until I got much older in life and I was already working on my book, but Games People Play only describes the negative games that people play and how they avoid responsibility or shift things away from themselves to protect the ego. And so the challenge became, as I grew up, my dad was more extroverted. I'm actually an extrovert, but I learned to become an introvert for a variety of reasons. But I would start playing the yes, but game. And, I messed up, and he'd say, well, you should have done this. And I'd say, yeah, but there were extenuating circumstances. There was this and this and this. And he said, oh, well, then you should have done this. Yeah, but there was also this and this. And then he would go, oh, you're playing the yes, but game. Come back and talk to me when you want to be serious. And he was accurate in identifying the game that I was playing. But what he did, the way he used it, it was kind of like a hammer, because he identified my behavior. But if I didn't agree with his definition, or it gave us nowhere to go, because I'm trying to explain myself and I'm trying to understand what's going on. So I'm kind of in a place of process, and he's just defining, here's what's going on. It's a very positional interaction. And it makes me shut down. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Fine. You think you know what I'm doing. You think you know what I'm feeling and what I'm processing. Then nerf you and go talk to yourself. Goodbye. And it hurt our relationship for a really long time, not because that's what he wanted, but he was trying to communicate a body of knowledge that I didn't have. And he was just using it instead of bringing me into the discussion. And so I wrote, Is This Game Worth Winning? As kind of a counter to that book many, many years later, because it's not enough to identify you're playing a game. Okay, how can I win this game? Because all human beings are born to be winners. We have to learn to become losers, right? The fact you're born is a 1 to 400 trillion odds to be who you are. You could have been 399 trillion, 999 billion, 999 million, 999,000, 999 different people, and you aren't. You're you. So you're a born winner, but how do you win with the people around you? And I define winning as you feel warm, big, and happy on the inside, and I feel warm, big, and happy on the inside. How can we get to that for both of us simultaneously? So that's the framework for how we start to build these games. So then when you're looking at, interacting with your kids, where's the energy? Because we're all energy addicts. We need that energy because that's what keeps us alive, right? And as a little kid, why do 2-year-olds run away? Do I get more energy by standing next to mom and dad and doing everything they ask? Or do I get more energy when I run away and they chase me and they yell at me? Because the kids don't care if the energy is positive or negative. They just need the quantity first, the quality second. So I need energy from you. I need like 1,000 units of energy, or I don't feel like I matter. I don't feel like I exist. So that kid's going to get that energy from you in some way, shape, or form. And if I can't get it positive, because positive is a little more challenging at times, I can get it negative by just making you mad at me.
And we definitely see that. Yeah, for sure. I mean, all the time, kids, even 2 and up, right? We see that they're constantly looking for that. So that's an interesting perspective, is that they're looking for that energy.
Exactly. So then the question becomes, how do I train or interact and play? How do I get you to play my game versus me play your game? Because I'm a little kid. I'm just going to ignore mom and dad. I get them yelling at me. I get more energy. I'm winning because I'm getting the energy I want, or the energy that I need. Now, do I like that energy? No, but I need it. So whether you're happy about it or not doesn't matter, as long as I get the quantity of energy first. Then I can go and deal with all the rest of it later in life, hopefully. The challenge, though, is little kids don't know how to disassociate. So, I did something bad is a different thing than I am bad. And if mom and dad are mad at me, and because I pooped in my pants, and we're getting yelled at, I can't believe you pooped in your pants again. It's going to be we're wasting so much time and we're feeding all this energy. And now the kid's going, well, I got the energy, but not I did something wrong. I was wrong. And that identity becomes very powerful. And so then they start to act accordingly, right? So if I'm a bad boy, I'm a bad girl, then I'll behave like that because that's my identity. So as a parent, your first thing to realize is you are what I call a success coach. You're modeling for your children what it means to be a successful human being. Even when you don't feel that you're very successful, your kids look at you as you're amazing and you can do all these things and you have so much knowledge and so much ability until they start getting out of the house more. So if you undercut yourself, if you insult yourself, if you rail against the universe and religion or politics or business or economics or whatever, your kids begin to learn that game and they begin to go to that victim, they go to that poor me type of thing. So as a success coach, how do I help my children learn from and grow from the experiences of the things they do? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is modeling this behavior and really coming from a place of wholeness and, of course, not perfection, right? Or not perfect, but this place of modeling what we want them to become. And I love your point that, kids, they don't know any different and they're so happy with the parents that we are. They're not comparing. When kids are very young, they're not sitting there saying, well, her mom has a better car and, her mom this, and they're not worried about those things. They are very good at being in the moment. And so, yeah, if we can be just that person that we want to be, that's enough for them.
Exactly. It's not, oh, well, Sally's mom has a 6-pack and they eat all vegan and the kid doesn't care. They go to Sally's house and we're going to play. Or, I love my mom. Why? Because when I hug her, she's squishy and it makes me feel so safe and warm. But mom is beating herself up because, well, I'm 10 pounds overweight and I've tried for 10 years to get this weight off and I'm just fat and I'm never going to get rid of it. So if mom is busy beating herself up, then the daughter begins to internalize that. And the son begins to internalize that and say, oh, I need to find a woman who beats herself up because she's not at the standard she wants to be. And I'm not saying you can't have those standards, I'm just saying the game you play with yourself on how to motivate, right? So when I work with parents, it's like, what's more fun, getting stuff or losing stuff? And almost everybody says getting stuff. And I'm like, great. So do you want to lose weight or do you want to gain health? Do you want to lose weight or do you want to gain vitality and passion and power? Because where's the power? Where's the energy in those phrases?
Totally. I love that. Yeah. That language, it matters. It really does. It makes a big difference in the energy, in how we think and how we feel. So I want to make sure we have time then, as you've talked about, that we're the success coaches. We're coming from this strong foundation. And then when we're there, hopefully, how do we play these fundamental games? You have 5 that I'd love to go over. So the first one is being stable, or who's in charge here. Let's talk about that one a little bit.
All right. So the idea there is something called self-control, right? So who should be in charge? Should your mind be in charge or should your body be in charge? And it should be our mind, right? Because when our body's in charge, then, I'm hungry, so I'm going to yell and scream at everyone because my blood sugar is low. And you've seen the Snickers hangry commercials. That's an example of I'm letting my body be in charge. So what we want to do is notice when your kids are in control of themselves and feed that energy. Because we're all energy addicts. So if I want my daughter to stay near me when we're in the store, then I'm going to catch her. Oh, Evie, I love how you're staying next to me and you're paying attention. High five. 10 seconds later, are you still walking right next to me? You're doing such a good job being part of the team. Give me some knuckle love on that. And we do a little fist bump. So every 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds, I'm acknowledging where she is and what she's doing, going, that's really awesome. Because she's 3, her attention span's going to be no more than 3 minutes. So every less than 3 minutes, I'm going to remind her that she's doing a good job and I appreciate her being next to me. She's doing such a great job listening. And the more I feed her energy in that area, then I'm reinforcing her to practice her self-control and be aware of where mommy and daddy are and stay close to us when we're out in public. Now, being my daughter, I also had her on a leash when she was 1 and 2, because when I was 4, I used to run into traffic. So she comes by that energy honestly. And it's just, having those tools, start to notice, I love when my kids are doing this. Tell them, that was awesome. I love the way you did that. High five. And that physical high five is what we call a kinesthetic anchor. It amplifies energy, right? If someone says, I love you, it feels kind of nice. When they hug you and say, I love you, it feels better. So the more you can put your body into it, the more energy you're going to get out. So the first game is self-control. Get my kids notice when they're in control of themselves. Say, I love that. That was awesome. You could have done this, but you chose to do that. That was awesome. I'm so impressed. And this even works with teenagers. Tell them what they did right. And it's easier for them to win with you because they know what you want to do. They know what you want from them.
Yeah, I can see how powerful that would be. I love the kinesthetic amplifier idea, that working in touch with the praise and just kind of, hitting it home. I have a question here. Any ways to remember how to do it? Because it's so easy to remember when your young child is running off to say, hey, come back here. You're supposed to stay with mom. But it's a lot harder to remember to say, oh, good job. You're right where you need to be every few minutes.
Part of it is you get permission from, you said you have 5 kids. What are their ages?
The oldest is 15 and the youngest is 2.
Sweet. You get the 15-year-old on your team and say, hey, I'm working on this skill. Would you help me? Could you hold me accountable? And now you get the 15. Well, you're giving power to the 15-year-old to quote unquote correct you, what I call adjusting. But they're just helping you be part of the team. And hey, you can just process so much better than your brothers and sisters. And I really need some help right now because this is an area I think I need to do better. And so it's what we call a position of inferiority. I intentionally, energetically put myself lower than you, that I need your help. I'm asking you. And when you go and ask your kids to do stuff, it gives them more power versus you tell them. So I ask them, hey, could you help me with this? Here's what I need. And then we play that game and they interrupt me and say, hey, wait, mom, you need to, and I'll be like, oh, you know what? You're on point. Thank you. High five. And then, go do the thing they reminded you of. And that way you're creating, this is how you get the kids to start leveraging and working with each other, because you let them reward each other independent of you having to do it. They can acknowledge each other's successes. And it's a game just, hey guys, we're going to play this game. And it's called the self-control game. How many of you like it when I yell at you because you messed up? Raise your hands. Nobody? I didn't think so. I don't like it either. How many of you love it when I give you hugs and kisses and high fives because you're doing awesome? Show of hands. Oh, me too. I love that. I want to do more of that. And so I get permission from them to play a different game at home. And I just acknowledge we're going to play a different game. And I say it, we're going to play a different game. Because all of our behavior is ultimately a game to get energy, positive, negative. But that's what we're doing as human beings. It's part of the social structure as social creatures. So let's just call it what it is, but let's make it a game everyone can win versus it has to be win-lose, because I don't believe that it has to be that way. You either win or you learn, and that's a choice.
Yes.
So get your teammates to help you.
Love that. Okay, that's so good. And I'm excited about it because that'll work. I know already, like that will totally work. My kids love it when they're in charge and get to correct me. So no doubt that one will work. All right. The next one I want to talk about is being centered, or how many things can you do at once? What do you mean by that?
So that's all about focus, right? You can think multiple things, but you can only say one thing at a time because your mouth only works one thing at a time. So you can notice and be aware of a bunch of stuff. Turn the light on in the room. How much things can you see? You can see a bunch, but if you start labeling what you see, you have to pick somewhere to start. So the idea is you can really only do one thing at a time. And a lot of times parents will tell me their kid is disrespectful or there's something. And it's like, I interact with a kid and I'm like, no, they're not disrespectful. They're just differently focused. Right? So we got to leave and the kid's off playing with their toys and mom and dad are freaking out. We got to go, get your shoes, get your shirt. Let's go, get in the car. Let's go. And the kid's like, but I've got the bubble gum and I'm doing the thing and I'm playing with the bubble wand. And it's because the kid is focused somewhere else. And so there we have to help reorientate their focus on what we feel is the important stuff. So, we're in a hurry and there's like, but mom, there's ants. They're eating gum. It's cool. It's like, you know what? I love that. That is so awesome. Let's come back and take a look at that. But right now, what's the next thing we got to do is we got to get in the car and we got to go. So I have to shift their focus and realize they can only focus one thing at a time. So one of the games there is what we call is transition time, right? If you take a younger heart and mind and you shift on a dime from playtime to work time, chore time, bathing time, travel time, they're going to get a lot of resistance because they are in a momentum with whatever it is they're already doing. So you just start a countdown timer. Okay, guys, 10-minute warning. We're going to switch over to, playtime is going to be over. We're going to switch to chores, or we're going to switch to bath time, or whatever it is. And then you give a reminder at 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, and then you change. And the time doesn't actually have to match real time. 10 minutes can mean in just a little bit. 2 minutes means we're almost ready. 1 minute means it's about to happen. It doesn't have to be linear time. It can just be emotional time, because little kids don't process time the way adults do.
Right. So we don't have to be standing there with a stopwatch, watching it. Yeah, just the general idea. I have used that one in our family, and that's been pretty good, pretty helpful, I feel like, to get the kids ready for the next thing, because that is something kids really struggle with. Of course, if they're involved in something and you say it's time for the next thing, they don't want to do it. They're happy where they are. So that's really helpful.
Right. And same idea, if you're engrossed in a book and someone just comes up and yanks it out of your hand and says, all right, let's go. It's like, I mean, it works for us as adults. We transition generally better than the kids do. Because we practiced it for like a whole lot longer, but we still have that emotional weight, but I wasn't done.
Yeah. Yeah. It's even helpful with older, with your spouse or whatever, to say, instead of asking for something right now, to give them a little time to finish what they're doing. So it's definitely helpful with kids. Hey babe, in about the next half hour, do you think you could do this?
Exactly. Oh, yeah, I can get that.
Yeah, you get a lot more buy-in than do this right now. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Okay, so the next one is being respectful. And this you say, or the key to success is?
Right, so the idea of respect is about when you show that you care, doing things, treating things with positive energy. So that's where we go back to, my kids being disrespectful because they're not paying attention. Well, wait a minute. Is their focus somewhere else, or are they deliberately acknowledging you and then choosing to ignore you? Right. And this is where we struggle a lot with teenagers, because we try to get them to care about our priorities and we don't know what their priorities are or what matters to them. So we've got to learn about, what does this person care about and how can I align what they care about with what I care about? So, helping them understand and feed energy into the stuff that you care about. Right. It's the idea, go back to self-control. That was awesome. High five. I'm feeding energy into the behavior that I want, and then I'm going to get it back easier because I'm rewarding them. So if I care about their behavior versus I care about being right and I care about getting my priorities done, then I'm going to yell at my kids much easier versus I care about how they feel in the process. I'm going to show up different. And again, it's acknowledging when your kids are sharing with each other, when they're being, hey, you could go first. I love that. That was awesome. When they show they care about somebody else's priorities over their own, that was awesome. That was so respectful. That was so great the way you showed that you cared about that. So I'm using that specific definition over and over again to anchor in for them. Respect is about showing you care. I mean, it's one thing to say, I care about you, but what are your actions, right? There's a martial arts master who recently passed away, Grandmaster Jun Rhee, and he would say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Everybody knows this, but an action is worth 1,000 pictures. That means an action is worth 1,000,000 words. How people treat you tells you what their real priorities are. And when you help younger people understand that, all of a sudden it gets easier to filter who are your real friends and who aren't. Because they can say the right stuff and do the right stuff, but if it's not both at the same time, they're not really your friend.
Yeah. So I want to spend a little more time on this because this is something I feel like respect between siblings is can be a real issue, for kids fighting, or I have four boys. And so there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of physical, punching each other and all that kind of stuff. And even beyond that, taking each other's things. And it boils down to a lack of respect. And they don't feel respected and they don't treat each other with respect. So any thoughts on respect between the siblings or even kid to kid if it's an only child interacting with someone else?
So the challenge you have there is empathy is two things. Empathy is a brain structure that develops usually between 5, sometimes 4, but 5 and 7 is kind of when we develop empathy. And then it has to link in for the next 5 to 7 years. So expecting a 7 or 8-year-old to care about other people's feelings really doesn't work that good. Masculine tends to develop slower on the empathy because masculine tends to be less socially driven. Right? When you criticize masculine, it tends to just drive them away. It doesn't motivate a change in behavior. When you criticize feminine, it changes behavior, right? If a friend of my wife's criticizes her dress, she will never wear that dress again. But if she likes the dress, she won't get rid of it either. So it's in the closet collecting dust because she likes it and she likes to look at it, but she'll never wear it because of the criticism. Somebody criticizes me for something I wear, I don't care. It's comfortable. Shut up. Because it doesn't affect me the same way. So masculine and feminine have a different relationship to changes in behavior. And then from there, this idea of masculine is much more a kinesthetic communicator. They're much more physical, quicker to grab, quicker to change, and so then you've got to put it back into their world and say, hey, well, hold on a second, guys. Have a seat. Now, listen up. Do you guys like it if I grab you and move you? Would you like me to hit you, push you, shove you, kick you? No. Okay, great. So what makes it okay if you do it to your brother? Well, right. And I understand you guys are passionate and you want to do the thing you want to do and you guys have high standards and I love those things. But is this okay the way you guys are interacting? Because what if you do that at school? How quick before you guys get suspended? If you do that at work, how quick before you guys go to jail? Oh, and so what I'm doing there is I'm wrapping a larger structure, a larger context to get them out of, well, it's okay because it's my brother. Well, it's not really, but whatever we say as adults is trivia. Whatever they say as kids is gospel. So how can we get them to say what the standard should be? Because if they say that's the standard, then they're going to live up to that easier than if we force it from the outside. So it's a little bit bigger conversation, but you're doing social pressure. And it's like, you don't like being treated like this. What makes it okay? Right? You've got the biggest, the 15-year-old. Great. What if the other 3 gang up on you and they all jump on you? Can you fight 3 people at once? Oh, I mean, I'm bigger and stronger. Yeah, but the 3 of them together outweigh you. Do you see a problem with that? Oh, and so that's why I start to expand context and take it out of the familiar situation of at home and go into, but at school, on the sports team, at work, out in life, and spiral it bigger. And then they go, oh, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Now, I'm envisioning as you're talking about these things that this is, I know a man that would say, talk about talking when you're not talking about anything else. And meaning that you're having these conversations not in the heat of the moment, but when things are calm. Is that what you would suggest? Okay.
Yeah. And what you can also do, because this goes back to self-control, that's why that's the first one. But when you have people that are getting heated with each other, you can yell timeout at them, but you want to give them the power to declare timeout for themselves. Like in football, you know how they declare timeout and they got the one hand flat and the other hand makes the letter T.
Right.
So anybody in the house, if things are getting too heated, they can just call a timeout, and they do hand on top of the other hand. They say, timeout, I got 5 minutes, and they go walk off and cool off.
Okay.
Because that lets them get back to that self-control.
Yeah.
Right. And
when things get heated.
Yeah, and if they put themselves in timeout, it's more powerful than if you put them in timeout. Because that's, you did it to them versus I did this for myself, and this is my boundaries, my reality. I'm not comfortable with this. Back off. It's like, all right, you got 5 minutes. Because you don't want to come back to it tomorrow because it's too late.
Totally. They'll have already forgotten. And why are we even talking about this? Yes. All right. The fourth one is being self-disciplined. And I definitely want to make sure we talk about this one because this is an issue I can see that I need to work on in my family. Our kids could use some help with this. So talk to me about self-discipline.
Self-discipline, that is doing what you're supposed to do no matter if you like it or not. And the problem that parents get into, the trap they fall into, is the word supposed to, because that requires that you care about what needs to get done, right? Why do I have to do that? Well, because that's what good people do. Okay, great. I'm not good people. I'm not doing that. Moving on. And so especially with teenagers, trying to get them to take responsibility, but that's not my priority. I don't care because that has nothing to do with what I want or what I want to do. So you have to tie those two together, that what they want and what you want align. See, by you doing this for me, you can have that from me later. Like the 15-year-old wants to borrow the car at 16. Great. So let me ask you a question. When you think about your room, does your room help me and Dad to feel warm, big, and happy inside, or not so much? Not so much. Great. So when you want to borrow the car from me, what's the answer? Not so much. You're exactly right. But you have the power to change that conversation. You handle these basic things, then we can give you the intermediate things. You handle the intermediate things, we'll let you try 2,000 pounds of death, because a car mishandled is 2,000 pounds of death. Oh, all right, cool. So what needs to get done around here? And that, when I say what needs to get done, I open the frame, so now the teenager can start to decide what priorities are. Well, if I got this done and this done, would that be... Yeah, those are good. What else could you do? This and this? Yeah, I like that. Get those 4 things done, and then we can have the discussion about the car. I'll feel more comfortable. But these things over here aren't being handled. Forget about that. The answer is already no. Just save you the time. So that's how you begin to build that self-discipline. And then work it back to the younger kids. You guys play the cleanup game?
Yes.
Yeah, who can clean up the best, the fastest? Ready? On your mark, get set, go. I can clean up, and then we have a song. Clean up, everybody, everywhere. Do your part, show you care. And you just we do that. So the 3-year-old, Evie, she will sing that as we're cleaning. It's like, oh, it's cleanup time. Ready? On your mark, set, go. And she knows the game. And it's like, all right, we'll do a 5-minute power clean around the house. Be like, all right, guys, 5-minute power clean. Ready? On your mark, set, go. And then it's a competition, and it's all 4 of us cleaning. We're all involved, and there we go. It makes life easier.
Totally. Okay. What's standing out to me is these conversations and really letting the kids be a part of the solution. I think that that's so powerful when we can draw the kids in and get their input, because when we get that and when we have that from them, then it comes along with, at least on some level, some buy-in. And then we aren't fighting this battle against them. The idea came from them. And I think that's great. Now we are about out of time, but I would love for you to finish us up with the last one, which is being confident.
Right. So self-confidence comes from the ability to believe in myself and my hopes, dreams, goals, and abilities. And that's not something you can give somebody. It's not a pencil. It's not a pen. There's a thing in child development about self-esteem. And self-esteem is having a high regard for yourself, and that's great. But you can have a high regard for yourself and be a jerk and be incompetent and have no clue what's going on. But I really think highly of myself, right? Because you have a false sense of grandeur. Congratulations. So rather than deal with self-esteem, and I do believe you should have a high sense of self-worth, that's important. But the idea of self-confidence is you got to mess stuff up, get up, fix it, and keep moving, right? The old adage, the secret to success is fall 7, rise 8. So you fall down 7 times, you get up that 8th time, and you keep on moving. So create opportunities for your kids to get out of their comfort zone, try stuff, mess it up. That was awesome. I loved your effort. I love what you did. What did you learn? What are you going to do different? And that way they begin to start going, well, wait, I either win or I learn. And now they can happen to life instead of life happening to them. And the way I've set everything up in the previous 4 games, I'm constantly giving them the ability to choose, to control, to make decisions. I'm already building their self-confidence because I believe in their ability to be intelligent and make intelligent choices.
Yes. Okay. I love that. I love the synergy of these games, how they work together and how they can really help us in our parenting. So Jeremy's book is called Your Best Child Ever. Is this game worth winning? Any final thoughts for us, Jeremy, before we go?
Well, the one thing I'd like to offer your audience is on theparentingprogram.com, we have a tab, and they can get a hold of me and schedule a 30-minute call. If they're having a challenge or a difficulty with their kids, with themselves, let's have a conversation. Let's see what we can shake loose, because they may have the solution. They just don't have the right question to realize it.
I love it. Okay, I will link to that for anyone who's interested. Thank you again, Jeremy, and thanks everyone for listening to Moms Who Know.